The Steam Next Fest is still going on, at least until the end of this weekend. Hundreds of demos for you to try out. And of course, in an earlier video I made, I tried out 10 different demos. And as such, in this video, I'll be covering more demos that I've tried out in the Next Fest, and more demos that you should maybe test out. And as per usual, I record these off of a Steam Deck, and I do play these on a Steam Deck, unless otherwise specified. But before that, if you like this video or any other video I make, please like, subscribe, and share with all of your friends. Spreading the good gospel of high-tech low-life lets the YouTube algorithm know that I'm doing well. The first demo I tried out was for a game called Metal Slug Tactics. It's a turn-based strategy game based on SNK's classic run-and-gun series, which I will say, hot take, is better than Contra, don't at me. A lot of the Metal Slug charm applies to the sprite work. That said, it's an entirely different genre, so none of your Metal Slug experience applies here. I thought the demo was a pretty fun experience, though I will say it's a lot more difficult than I was expecting, especially to begin with. But of course, that can be remedied by just playing a little bit more efficiently. Yes, the demo works pretty well on Steam Deck, though keep in mind there's no native controller support for the demo just yet, so you will have to configure mouse and keyboard settings. Next up is Blade Chimera, developed by the venerable Team Ladybug. You take the role of a modern-day demon slayer. You have a couple of different modes of attack, including guns, melee weapons, and even a sort of spectral light sword. The demo itself is quite short, but the game is pretty fun. That said, there isn't really too much to explore here, but what we got is a pretty darn good demo. Unsurprisingly, the demo works pretty well on Steam Deck. The next game on this list is Hookah Haze. Hookah is kind of like vaping, but a little less douchey and a bit more pretentious. Plus, it's super popular in Japan. Hookah Haze asks the question of what if Valhalla was about smoking instead of drinking? Much like Valhalla itself, this is pretty much a visual novel with some limited form of interactivity, namely serving up your hookah recipes to your customers. What makes Valhalla stand out is that there are actual consequences for messing up orders, whereas we don't know if the same applies to Hookah Haze. I will say the sprite work looks really nice, and it's pretty detailed, and you can even see the animations of the characters smoking. Now, high-tech lowlife doesn't endorse smoking or any other drugs or anything of the sort, but what I can tell you is that this game works pretty well on Steam Deck. I was actually recommended this demo by a developer, namely the developer of Code Bunny. This is Kitsune Tails, a platformer that very much evokes the Mario. While the physics aren't one-to-one to any single Mario game, it does try to evoke that sort of Mario feel. It was a fun diversion, but these platformers really can't be judged by the quality of their level 1. The first few levels seems pretty fun, but what I want to see are some crazier levels, you know, later levels in the game. But of course, this demo doesn't provide that, but I'd be interested in trying it out. But yes, the demo does work on Steam Deck. As we all know, maids are an unbeaten aesthetic. This is Maid Cafe on Electric Street. You take control of a dying maid cafe and hopefully turn it around. You explore Nipponbashi, Osaka. Like with most visual novels or adventure-style games on the Next Fest, it's difficult to evaluate the game based on, well, what the demo has. Granted, there isn't too much gameplay to speak of. The game's gonna be entirely carried by its characters and story. And of course, the jury's still out on whether or not it'll be any good. But hey, these sorts of games are carried by their aesthetic. This game will work on Steam Deck, but there's no official controller support available. Instead, the game only works with keyboard controls, so you'll need to find those if you want to play this game on Steam Deck. The next demo I want to talk about is a game called 500 Caliber CONTRACTZ. You take the role of a contract killer, an assassin, but the big major twist is that you're actually playing Super Mario 64 with guns. The in-game physics feels remarkably similar. Not necessarily exact, but somewhat similar. And the gunplay isn't just for killing enemies or shooting at objects. It also assists in movement as well. While the game certainly doesn't feel like it, it certainly looks like something that would have passed off as edgy back in the early 2000s. And there's a lot of that charm there too. There's a pretty high degree of skill required in moving fast, but man, does it feel good when you do so. It almost makes you forget about the objective, which is to kill your target. But in addition to the target, there's also additional stars, crosshairs you can collect throughout the map. This game was actually surprisingly fun. This unusual mixture of Mario 64 and early 2000s edgy aesthetics, well, let's just say this is something you have to try. It might be a little unusual for the average gamer, but trust me, I think you'll enjoy it. It works pretty well on Steam Deck and has full controller support. This might be the strangest Next Fest demo I've played yet. This is Illusion Carnival. You explore the wonderful carnival and clockwork-inspired world of Confettia, which may actually be Limbo, but it's hard to know for certain. When it comes to presentation, they've put maximal effort into the presentation. It oozes with style and charm, and honestly, it's a difficult game to describe without you playing it. Playing this game is an experience in and of itself, and it's difficult to describe. But all I can really say is, give it a shot. You won't regret it. Yes, the game works on Steam Deck and has official controller support, but for whatever reason, the button prompts displayed don't necessarily match. I don't know why. Next up is the demo for Wizard of Legend 2. You know, I've actually played the original Wizard of Legend on my Nintendo Switch back when, before the Steam Deck was a thing. That said, I did prefer the art style of the first game, but I mean, can't do much about that now, can we? Wizard of Legend was pretty brutal, and it still is for the most part. But as a demo, we're here to see if the game plays pretty well, and I think it plays pretty well. And also, the game works pretty well on Steam Deck. Next up is another horror title, Hollowbody. It's seemingly more Silent Hill inspired, but in a more sci-fi aesthetic. I suppose the only problem I have with these games is I tend to get lost really easily. Like really easily. Despite not having tank controls, the game still has fixed camera angles, which can be a little troublesome at times. I think implementing tank controls this way would make a lot more sense, but not much you can do about that, right? The game works pretty well on Steam Deck. And the final game I want to talk about is a game called Enotria. By default, the game does not run well. For whatever reason, the demo defaults to ultra graphics, so be sure to lower the graphical detail if you want to play at like 30 FPS. It's a Souls-like with one unique feature: masks. It changes your skill loadout as well as some of your weapons as well. I do like some of the ideas this game provides, but honestly, I am feeling these Souls-like burnout. And at this point, I don't feel the need to play any Souls-like from any other company that isn't straight up From Software. So, having said that, I'm not super interested in this title, and as stated before, the game by itself does not run super well. You need to lower the graphical details all the way to get 30 FPS. Maybe the final game will run a little better, but I wouldn't count on it. And I think this covers it for my Next Fest coverage. There's only so much time I have to make these Next Fest videos, and so there's only so many demos I can try out, at least on video. I'm sure there will be others that I try out while I still have the time to try them out, but I won't be making a video on those. Making these videos does take a lot of time, and because I do all of this stuff on my own, and I barely have the time to do so, there isn't really much I can do about that. If you like this video, please press the like button and check out our other videos, and if you like those other videos as well, be sure to press the subscribe button and share the good gospel of high-tech lowlife with your friends. Furthermore, we have a community Discord for enlightened individuals such as you. And if you wish to further support high-tech lowlife, be sure to check out our Patreon page. Links in the description.